Who's up in here? I'm here. Come on in here, y'all. Come on in here. Come on in here. Celebrity is contrived. This is a subject I just thought about. I just thought about talking about this because it's on the heels of what we talked about earlier. And salute to everybody that is on Patreon that will that I heard what I had talked about earlier today in regards to the Telecommunications Act. That Telecommunications Act, the Telecommunications Act really did do a number on music and TV. But at the same time, it made it easier for them to pick and choose celebrities. So tonight, I want to talk about how celebrity is contrived. So Miss Pamela, Monique, Sinister, Turtle Sage, Gerald, and everybody up in here. Appreciate y'all for joining. I'm not gonna be here all night tonight, but I did want to just have this talk real quick. Because I'm in LA. It's All Star Weekend, and I'm not going out. I was gonna go out. I ain't going into that shit. I've been going hard lately. I'm chilling tonight. But with that being said, last week was Grammy weekend, and it got me thinking. It really got me thinking about celebrity. It really got me thinking about celebrity and what that is. And when I was thinking about like music, I'm gonna do another Patreon series pretty soon. And it's gonna be for all tiers on Patreon. We're gonna do a deep dive into Laurel Canyon and what went on there and the LA music scene of the mid 60s through the 70s and all of those stars that they literally created out of nothing. But let's start with one right now. Let's start with Jim Morrison and the Monkees, the Birds. They're all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You just had Gene Simmons talking about what rappers don't belong. And you understand this, any black person that gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame earned it. When you compare them to what happened in Laurel Canyon. Laurel Canyon, you get an artist like, say, Jim Morrison. He was the lead for the Monkees. Jim Morrison never played any instruments in his life, never wrote a song, never sang, never even showed the slightest interest in music the majority of his life. Went to UCLA, and out of nowhere, Jim Morrison writes, quote unquote, writes 3 quote unquote classic albums. He wrote 3 albums, and then just as fast as he came writing those 3 albums, he went. And even before he died, he retired from music. And he became this major celebrity Then we find out that his dad was the man that started the Vietnam War with the Tonkin Gulf incident. And then you see the same thing with the birds and with uh, Frank Zappa and the whole LA's mid to late 60s rock scene literally was created overnight. You get these artists, but these artists worked at the same time. You have clubs like the Whiskey a Go Go, the Roxy. All of these open up, and the people that open up these clubs, they also happen to be tied in with defense agencies. They're loosely or connected to the defense agencies, and all of these people come out here to LA from like the DC, Virginia, Maryland area because their parents work in intelligence. Then you find the magazines created around that time to promote rock and roll. These are created by people with military governmental ties. And what you find out is whether you're dealing with the Carpenters, the Mamas and the Papas, the Monkees, the Birds, and these groups of that time, you find that hardly none of these people have much musical inclination. And you also find that every one of these bands, the band really behind the music was Phil Spector's wall of sound. When you hear the term wall of sound, that's what Phil Spector named his studio band. And it's these same musicians behind all of these hits, but these people that they're backing, the ones that are out front, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, all of these people become mega stars. Hardly none of them play any instruments. And these people were the first ones into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're the one of the groups that won the most Grammys. They sold the most records. They were selling more records than Motown. They were on the radio more than Curtis Mayfield. They were more famous than Aretha Franklin. And you really see that you have a lot of, like, especially a lot of black folks out there, you're really working your ass off. And you wonder why these other people just go right past you. And little do you know that these people who are going past you, they're closely tied in to alphabet agencies. They have these secret agencies working behind them, and your black ass has been really working. You got to be good to get any kind of exposure, and you get a Jim Morrison who never picked up an instrument and gets credit for writing albums that nowadays the news is coming out that in all likelihood he didn't write. What does this mean? This is, to me, proof that when it comes to celebrities are created. All this shit is contrived. It be all kinds of backstory to this shit. This is not as cut and dry as we think it is. And what we see is the system creates celebrities the same way it creates money. It just gets somebody. And here's the thing about celebrity. They don't even have to be good. They don't even have to be talented. Jim Morrison is known as some all-time great musician and singer. And we find out, in all likelihood, the evidence is pointing towards he probably didn't write those songs. And the parts that you hear in the studio, that wasn't these guys that you see on the record label, on the record cover. They weren't the ones putting off that sound. Celebrity is contrived, y'all. They literally got a bunch of kids, and they're going to Sharon. And it's not just music; it's movies too. Around the same time, yeah, Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was Roman Polanski's wife at the time, who's still alive, by the way. And allegedly, she was killed. Not allegedly, well, they say she was killed by by Charles Manson, and the Manson murders. Someone in the Manson family. We find out Charles Manson probably wrote a lot of those songs that later on got attributed to these other groups. But people who are seen as legends, in all likelihood, never had an ounce of the talent that it was written about that they had. So if they could create stars back then, or going back to actors, you know who else is part of this scene? Dennis Hopper, Jack Nicholson. What's that white boy who's racist right? He's still acting right now. Christopher Walken. Y'all know Christopher Walken from Saw? All these people got fam. No one really knows Jack Nicholson's parents. Well, there's no story about. The story goes nobody knows who Jack Nicholson's parents are. He was adopted. But all these people, Dennis Hopper, he was and James Dean, they were both male prostitutes here in LA in the 60s. And in the 60s, they would write articles in the LA Times, hey, Dennis Hopper or Jack Nicholson is going to be partying at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Basically telling the world that, like, they in this book that I'm reading, Weird Scenes in the Canyon, it's basically saying that the Birds, all these different groups, they weren't good enough. No one cared about watching them. The whole Sunset music scene was created to push these created stars. It was like literally an environment that was created. They didn't just give you the celebrities. They created magazines, they created clubs, and they used actors to promote these artists. They would say, "Hey, Jack Nicholson is going to be at the Whiskey A Go-Go tonight to listen to the Monkees." No, nobody knew or nobody cared about the Monkees, and the Monkees weren't even a good enough band for anyone to care about. They came to see Jack Nicholson that was going to possibly be partying there, and this group of dancers called the Freaks. The show was the dancers in the audience, the Freaks. These actors in the audience, Jim Moore, Jack Nicholson, Dennis Hopper, James Dean. That's what got people to come out. And it created a buzz. And then when it came down to the music, you have Phil Spector's Wall of Sound putting the music together and somebody writing these songs. You know what else? To take that shit even a little bit deeper, the Grateful Dead out of Oakland, out of the Bay Area. They moved down to LA in the early 60s, the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead was part of this. Do y'all know that the Grateful Dead used to hang out in Watts right before the time of the Watts riots? And it said the Grateful Dead was going down to Watts because Watts had a dope music scene. At the LA music scene was concentrated on Central Avenue and Broadway, on the black side of town. There was no Sunset in the 40s, in the 30s, in the 50s. The black artists were the only was the popping scene in L.A. Not Sunset. Sunset mimicked Central Avenue. Yeah, Sunset was a mimic of Central Avenue. Yeah, they don't talk about that. And the Grateful Dead was known for hanging out in Watts around the time of the Watts riots. And they also said the Grateful Dead were the ones bringing that acid and LSD, the band members down there to Watts from the West LA. So what you see is these people can create celebrities anytime they feel like it. So if they could do this back in the 60s, when there was a high standard in music, a high musical standard, what makes you think they haven't stopped? When you think about a Drake, a Cardi B, Drake, TV star that they pushed over into music. Cardi B, reality star that they pushed into music. You see how easy they can create celebrities? Yes, Miss Pamela, crack was most definitely created at UCLA. Yep. And perfected in Berkeley. And brought and thrown out into the streets. Y'all see how it worked? Yeah, Janis Joplin. Yeah, you look at Rihanna. It's like you see this. Your son, that right there, and get the book Weird Scenes in the Canyon. That's where I'm getting this information from. A book called Weird Scenes in the Canyon. And what you find is it's really not hard for them to create who we should be looking up to. And then they'll turn around. You'll have all these white acts that are not plugged into it, and all of these, especially back then, all these black acts, and you already see that. And the reason why I'm making it a white and black thing is because black acts always have notoriously lower sales than white acts. So white is considered pop, black is considered race music, still to this day in America. Even though they don't use the term race music anymore, it's still considered race music. So if a white act, quote unquote, mainstream act, sells 5,000 records, that black act may only sell 500,000. And those numbers are often manipulated too. But it goes to show you that they pick and choose. And that takes us to like conversations like these stupid ass top 10 conversations and how many records somebody sold. Look what they did with Jay-Z. Jay-Z was around in 1990, a nobody. 91, a nobody. He was around in 92, nobody. His peers and even people who are younger than him, like Nas, 93, 94, they passing Jay-Z up. Like Jay-Z's class is getting on. And everybody passing them up. Everybody passing them up. 96. Jay-Z was that Reasonable Doubt, one of them albums? Did anybody give a fuck about that when it dropped? Tupac died, Biggie dies. The Telecommunication Act is signed. And when the Telecommunication Act is signed, it makes it easier for them to create stars. Notice Jay-Z was around 6 years before the Telecommunications Act. No traction. He starts to become big, and with Dame Dash and them 97, 98. And then boom, by what? 99, 2000, he's out of there and he's with these white boys. He's with Leo Cohen now. Now he's everywhere. They can do the same in sports. Yeah, LeBron was stat padding. I saw that. He said I'm in the game with 2 minutes left, up 20, so he could pad his numbers. But come on, now burn this ass up. What is hip? What'll happen is later on somebody be like, "Oh, Dwann, you hating?" All right, prove me wrong. Yeah, that's it. 96 when Reasonable Doubt came out. Yeah, no one gave a fuck about Reasonable Doubt when it came out. People, people like, man, I've been a fan of Jay-Z since Reasonable Doubt. No, the hell you wasn't. Everybody went back to go find Reasonable Doubt. You got some people who was in on it right away, but I was around in 96. Most people weren't. They weren't talking about no goddamn. There was no reason to talk about no damn Reasonable Doubt when Biggie's still alive. There's no reason. Reasonable Doubt, hardcore hip hoppers like that, but for the most part, nobody no goddamn Reasonable Doubt. It was more niggas on Boys to Men than Jodeci in 96 and some goddamn Reasonable Doubt. Yeah, the Doors. Yeah, the Doors is a part of all that. The Doors, all these motherfuckers is military children. These is children of military people. The Doors, Monk, all these people, all the groups, all that shit was contrived. All of it. They weren't even musicians. That's the coldest part about it. I had to turn my VPN up, make sure. We got some juice up in here. Y'all, we here? We here? We here? Y'all here? Let me know if y'all here. Let me know if y'all here or not. We here? We good? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm about to go to the other room. I'll be right. Hold on. We good? Hold on 1 second. There we go. I had to open up this door to get this make sure this Wi-Fi signal was clear. All right, we here. But do y'all get where I'm coming from when I say celebrities contrive? I'm just giving y'all an example. And sign up for Patreon. On Patreon, we're going to do a deeper dive into this. We're going to do a deeper dive into this on Patreon sometime next week, probably. Now, I can't go smoke out there, man. The signal is weak. I gotta go smoke over here. What's up, Rocky? What's up, Rocky? Rocky over here knocked out. Can y'all see Rocky? No, y'all can't see Rocky. It's too dark. I'm trying to see Rocky. This is Rocky, right? Rocky over here knocked out. Rocky can never lay his ass down straight. That's Rocky. Look at Rocky. Rocky over here chilling. Rocky over here chilling. But y'all see where I'm coming from, y'all, right? Shit, that's gonna give me problems. It's all about control. We gotta remember this. All this shit is contrived, y'all. All this shit is contrived. All of it. And the purpose of celebrity there's a purpose for celebrity. And celebrities are created to control our minds, all right? We gotta know that. Celebrity is created to control the minds of the masses. Understand this. Please understand this. That's the whole purpose of celebrity, is to inform us on how to think, inform us on how to see the world, inform us on how to deal with problems, inform us on how to deal with society. That's the whole purpose of celebrity. Celebrity is to keep us asleep, is to keep us distracted. Celebrity is to keep us away from focusing on what's real. The ancient Romans called it bread and circuses, you know? Give them bread, give them circuses. Now, yeah, that's why all the black celebrities push for Kamala. Exactly. They create celebrities so that they have cards and strings to pull when they need a message getting conveyed. And when you're going back to what I'm talking about, the monkeys and the birds and the doors and all of those different groups, they were created at a time America was in the Vietnam War. And in books like Weird Scenes and in books like Chaos, they don't give you the conclusion. They make you draw your own conclusion, which I appreciate. And the conclusion that I drew was because you have all of these quote-unquote hippies. Hippies were dangerous. Nixon called hippies hippies and Black Panthers the number one threat to America. What up? Hippies and Black Panthers were the #1 threats to America. We understand the Black Panther part, but why the hippies? Why are the hippies threat? Well, weren't the hippies weren't following the program. You know, the hippies didn't follow the program. The hippies were about the original hippies. Let me say that back. Let's go back before the word hippie. The word hippie came as a derogatory. The originals were the anti-war crowd. And the anti-war were generally dignified, college educated, thoughtful, and they had good reasoning for not being down with the Vietnam War. The anti-war crowd was also pro civil rights too. They were against the war and they were for civil rights of Black people. And so they had to find a way to muddy the waters and conflate two things that aren't the same. So that's when you started getting these quote unquote hippies. And in these hippie movement with the Monkees and the Doors and the Carpenters and the Mamas and the Papas and Frank Zappa and Crosby, Stills and Nash and the Byrds and, you know, Jack Nicholson on the actor end, Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken, Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, all of these people, they're quote unquote hippies, but none of their music has an anti-war message. They had the look of the anti-war crowd. They talked like the anti-war crowd. But none of them had lyrics like Bob Dylan. That hippie movement out of LA came to silence, to neutralize the voices like Bob Dylan. I mean, like the real Bob Dylan was the real deal. They needed his voice neutralized, and writers like Bob, and to discourage future white writers from being the next Bob Dylan. So you create a bunch of celebrities that look like him, talk like him, sound like him, move like him, but the message ain't quite anti-war. And then when you establish this class of celebrity, you inject this guy named Charles Manson. Charles Manson was a degenerate from the beginning. He was just a complete degenerate. Just as a degenerate can be, was Charles Manson. He was a degenerate. And Charles Manson, who was in and out of jail his whole life, and before he got put into the Laurel Canyon scene, he was up in San Francisco, and he was in the Haight-Ashbury area, the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, in that area, in the Haight. They call it the Haight for short. He was in the Haight for a year. And in the Haight is when they were pushing a lot of the LSD stuff and free love. And Charles Manson had a parole officer who tried to... How does your parole officer try to put you back in jail, but a higher power comes in and makes sure you don't go to jail? Charles Manson was known for doing little shit that should have violated his parole. He was in and out of jail. And even though he was on parole, he was still allowed to live up in, even though his parole in Terminal Island released him to LA, he was still able to move up to the Haight and live in the Haight for a year while he was on parole in LA. Weird, right? So you move this. Charles Manson had gotten caught like raping like 12-year-olds. Like he was a rapist and a child molester. You take this rapist, child molester, murderer. You put him in the Haight-Ashbury area, which was about free love, and then you pluck him out of that and you put him right in the middle of the Laurel Canyon scene. And it was Brian Wilson of the of the Beach Boys, that introduced Charles Manson to everybody in that Laurel Canyon scene. And we come to find out, when you read books like Operation Chaos, Charles Manson may have been an asset of the agencies, the alphabet agencies. And you put him in the middle of all these musicians that are supposed to be anti-war movement hippies, but with no lyrics that are actually anti-war, but very self-destructive. And this went on between 1965 and really the first class, 65 to 71. Then by 71, the Eagles come and you have a whole new class. And we find that the 60s and 70s rock scene, the Eagles, out of LA, the biggest stars, the people who, when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame opens, they're the first ones inducted. These are all people that worked with the alphabet agencies, children of alphabet agencies. And you bring this murderer, Charles Manson, in there, and then the Charles Manson murders happened in 1969, Summer of Love. And at the same time the Charles Manson murders happened, Sharon Tate and all that, the four on the floor murders, mind you, it was hundreds of people died during this time too, by the way. I forgot to mention that part. Hundreds of people died. A lot of them by quote unquote suicide. But anyway, look up the four on the floor murders. Look up Sharon Tate. Look up all this shit that I'm talking about. The mansion. The murder scene up in Laurel Canyon goes back to Harry Houdini in the 1920s. You find there was a movie studio up there in Mulholland, over 20,000 square foot movie studio, the only studio in the world that everything was in-house, editing, filming, soundstage, everything. People like Walt Disney and Marilyn Monroe were known to be, and Governor Ronald Reagan were known to be frequent actors in those studios, films. You find former California Governor Jerry Brown was very much so into that scene. But going back to the Charles Manson part, when Charles Manson, those murders happened, the Cielo Drive murders and all that stuff, what they did was they associated that with the hippie movement. And they tried to associate it with the Black Panthers. They would put pigs, they would like spray paint pigs on the murder scenes to get people to think that it was the Black Panthers. I'm gonna get to some of y'all comments in a few minutes. I'm still on the stream of thought. I haven't really been reading the chat, so I don't mean to be rude to anybody, but I haven't been reading the chat because this is all just because I read this book twice. I read Weird Scenes in the Canyon twice, and so I'm just talking to y'all about it, right now. And just thought about Contrived Celebrity because I'm seeing what's going on right now, what went on in hip hop. Compare what happened with the hippie movement and the anti-war movement with what happened in the '80s with conscious rap, with street knowledge and gangster rap. The hippies naturally were anti-war and all about peace and love. Then you get these musicians that are tied to the government that you find out later on never really were musicians. They became musicians, a lot of them, but they didn't start off that way. They successfully conflate the anti-war peace and love movement with dirty, murderous hippies. And then about 20 years later, you get what Toddy T, King T, Ice Cube call reality rap, street knowledge. Reality rap and street knowledge, by the time you get to 1990, is now gangster rap. New York, party music, Big Daddy Kane. Party music goes from Big Daddy Kane talking about, just party stuff and life stuff to when you get to the mid-90s, it becomes shiny suit rap. How do we go from party music rap to shiny suit rap? Shiny party music was go out and have a good time, meet up with a girl. Shiny suit rap was I am the good time because I got an expensive car, I own a shiny suit, I spend all the money at the bar. It went from I'm fly because I'm fly to I'm fly because I have a lot of money to spend. Pamela said now gay rap. Pamela, you funny. She said now gay rap. Yeah, it went into materialism. You see how people can start with a particular message about something and out of nowhere, somebody gets real famous, slightly changing that message. NWA cautioned against the dope man. Talked to early 90s hip hop, Ice Cube talked bad about the drug dealers. What did Ice Cube say? To all y'all dope dealers, you as bad as the police because it kill us. In the song Us. Too busy jealous of each other's wealth. It went from talking bad about drug dealers to Biggie glorifying drug dealing to Eminem taking drugs into Lil Wayne being a drug addict into Future. Yeah, everything is about being a drug addict, being on Thiz every day of the week. You see how it happens? You see how it works? Then they say, look at the rappers. Look at the rappers. Oh, the rappers this. Oh, the rappers that. I don't look at the rappers. I look at the system. Who put you here? Why are you so famous? Why are you on my camera every day? What you talking about? Celebrity is created. Now, there are people with natural star ability, and some of those do eat through some of them cats are fighting me. Them cats fucking. But celebrity, I'm not saying there aren't, like, someone like a Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's a celebrity. Now, he went through Motown refinement school, but you look at his energy. That dude's a star. Like, you look at somebody like Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was a star. They tried to do, NBA did everything it could to dim Allen Iverson's light. All Allen Iverson had to do was wear his cornrows, dress like he wanted to dress, wear his hair how he wanted to, and play like he wanted to. He didn't have a stylist. You know, he didn't have a machine behind him like Jordan. Jordan had a machine. And people like Dr. J, Iverson, these people were just stars. It's just like, even Steph Curry. The way Steph plays, that nigga's just like, they didn't push Steph. He just was it. You know, you look at somebody like a Denzel. Denzel was never really pushed. He got a lot of opportunity, but they never really pushed Denzel. Denzel just, the brother just had it. It's just, stardom oozes off of Denzel, you know? I'm not saying stars don't exist, like I said. Look at Chris Brown. Chris Brown's a star. They do everything they can to act like Chris Brown doesn't exist. They really tried to push him all the way out. And in spite of all that, Chris Brown, I don't even like that dude's music, but that nigga is a fucking star. Period. Stars exist. It's a natural phenomenon. You have stars, you have planets. You have moons. Everything you see up there happens in real life. It's kind of cloudy right now, but you can see. Yep, you can see Sirius, and you can see Jupiter. See, if you step outside, if you're on the West Coast right now, step outside. Even on the East Coast, you see Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, and Jupiter, the brightest planet. They're both not too far apart right now in the western sky. You have stars, then you have planets. Planets revolve around stars. You have moons. Moons revolve around planets. You gotta understand that, you know, so these things do exist. But when you live in a world that was able to create stars before the Telecommunications Act back in the 60s, think about how much easier it is for them to create stars now post Telecommunications Act. All you have to do is mimic. See, a star produces its own light. Chris Brown produces his own light. Michael Jackson produces his own light. They tried to throw Magic Johnson, another star. They tried to throw blankets over Michael Jackson's stardom and over his light. They tried to cover his light up with foil and blankets. And it's too bright. But there's another way to be bright. I can put somebody in the position, in the clothes of a star, and shine a bunch of lights on them. There's two ways to be a star. You can be the born star, where your light shines out, or you can be the created star, it's a cut-out carbon copy of the star, but lights are shined on them. To the person not paying attention, the only thing they're going to see is lights. And most people don't pay attention nor know what to look for. So the only thing you're going to see is lights. But if you pay attention, it's easy to tell. Not so easy, but if you pay attention, you can tell the difference between someone getting a light shined on them and someone whose light is shining outward towards us. Yeah, I would go so far as to say Nipsey was a born star. Yeah, because I remember I used to never buy CDs. Yeah, I remember back in the 2000s, people was always out, hey man, buy my CD, buy my CD, buy my CD. I would run across Nipsey selling his CD all the time. He was always on Slauson and Overhill. I would catch him making that left turn when I lived with my parents off Slauson and Overhill, settling in the center median. I would catch Nipsey at either Simply Wholesome or Puerto Nuevo. I would see John Singleton there a lot too. I missed 2005 LA. I'll be in Puerto Nuevo or Sashi Teriyaki House. You see John Singleton in there ordering some food. And then Nipsey come walking in selling CDs. And out of all the people that sold CDs, Nipsey was like the only one I would buy from. I don't even know. I just didn't know why. It was something about the dude. You know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, I get it. I get the CD. I wouldn't even listen to it. Hustling in the House, all that stuff. I bought a bunch of Nipsey CDs. I didn't listen to any of them. I wasn't really into the music. I had my goddamn Parliament clones of Dr. Funkenstein in. I wasn't putting no new CDs there. But you say you're from Chicago, you remember Subway singing R. Kelly singing for Tips and Subway? Yeah, star. Yeah, Nipsey was a star. And actually, I wasn't even into his music like that at first. I got into his music around Hustling in the House. That's when I got into him. I was like, oh, this the nigga that been selling them CDs on the corner. Oh, shit. But me, mostly my music was, even back then, I'm probably listening to some goddamn Tower of Power or some Robert Glasper or some shit. You used to be at the limousine shop or Jackson Limousine? That limousine shop was where I used them for my prime back in '99. I think it was Jackson Limousine. Was it Jackson? Or was it Norm? No, it wasn't Norm Lewis. Norm Lewis limousine still around. I think it was Jackson Limousine. Mr. Jackson died. It all changed. Yeah. But Marvin Gaye was a star. He just needed some refinement. Diana Ross, star. And the talented Mr. Berry Gordy understood that. Florence Ballard had more talent. could sing better, could dance better, better musician. But she wasn't a star. Diana Ross was a star. And it took a long time. The Supremes could not get a hit. They tried to get us, Motown tried to get a hit off of the Supremes for years. Martha and the Vandellas was getting hits. The Marvelettes were getting hits. Mary Wells was getting hits. Kim Weston was getting hits. But, hello, y'all have a good one. But Diana Ross and the Supreme could not get a hit. But when she got that, baby, 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 don't leave me. When that shit hit, when Diana Ross finally hit, it was over. She's had that thing about her. She still carries herself with grace and elegance. You're not gonna. Still very graceful. And very spiritual from what I hear. What's up, Mama Zeke? Y'all say what's up to Mama Zeke. Hey, Mama Zeke, email me. I'm gonna send you a report. Email me or text. But yeah, it's a thing, y'all. Like, there are natural stars, but it's like anything else. What is the white supremacist good at? Imitating. That's their game. Mimicking and imitating. Once you understand what a star is, you can copy it, you can mimic it, you can fake it. And you fake it by putting it in the center and putting a bunch of lights on it and giving it a bunch of attention. And people, it's natural to assume that if somebody's getting a lot of attention, they must be important. This is where we as humans got to understand where some of our deficiencies are as humans. And this goes no matter what card you are. All of us have these. There's a common shared weakness we have as human beings. One of the weaknesses we have as human beings is negativity bias. It could be a strength too, depending on where it's played, but the negativity bias, where our minds can hold on to negative experiences and easily forget positive. The purpose for the negativity bias is, in the days we were in nature, in the wild, you had to remember which plants can kill you, which route the wolves take. You gotta. That's why we have a negativity bias. It's a survival tactic, but that negativity bias also gets us caught into a loop to where you notice everything could be cool. It could be cool for a year straight. Let two black people get into a fight. What niggas gonna say? We always in fights. Nigga, you ain't seen a fight all year. You've been around tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of black folks. Ain't seen nothing to go wrong. Two niggas get in a fight. All of a sudden we all can't get along. That's a negativity bias. and we're susceptible to it as humans. Another deficiency that works against us as humans in this society is humans are hardwired to believe what we see. As humans, we are hardwired to believe what we see. And this TV, this YouTube movie, this is only about a little over 100 years old. The brain still hasn't adapted to seeing things that aren't real. Think about it. Before the TV, we can go back to our parents and grandparents. For my wife, I can her parents. I was talking to my wife's mom about a year ago. She was talking about the first time they had a TV in the house. They grew up in Alabama. They didn't get a TV till they were like 10. They didn't even have a TV in the house. Then they got to get like one TV. And her dad was like, remembers when you had to walk down, it was like one TV on the block. Why am I saying this? The only thing you saw before 100 years ago actually happened. And this is every human being ever. You walk down the street, you see somebody get shot, oh shit. You may have seen that with your own eyes once or twice. You weren't burdened by it. Now we got a TV and we see people get shot every day. Think about that. Think about the toll it must take on our minds. We pull up YouTube, you pull up Twitter, depending on what's in your algorithm. That's why you got to watch what you have in your algorithm, watch what you ingest as far as sonically and visually. Depending on what's in your algorithm, you probably got people getting snuffed out all up on Twitter. And every time you open up your Twitter, it's somebody getting snuffed. So that's how they use this whole celebrity thing against us. With celebrity, if in real life 100 years ago, 200 years ago, if you kept seeing somebody in an important position 200 years ago, it's because they were important. The foreman of your factory, the politician, the musician that you saw getting the most work, always performing around town. These people were doing something that had them in the spotlight, so their celebrity meant a little bit more because it was kind of a natural thing. You believe what you see. Now, they get some old random jack and put them on the radio 5 times an hour, put them in every TV show, put them next to greatness. And that's what they do. They partner these people, these jokesters, with greatness. It's the Drake formula. People talk about a Drake stimulus package. Fucking Drake stimulus package. It was Drake being put next to Wayne is what gave him credibility. Everywhere you look from 2009 to 2016, 17, Drake, anybody who had any kind of shine, you're going to put Drake next to him. That way you can keep his celebrity. If Drake is really a celebrity like that, why does he have to always be in our face? And it wasn't just hip hop. You're gonna put Drake with the best pop artists, with the best neo soul artists. You're gonna put Drake the best R&B artist. You're gonna put Drake next to do a song with the best. Drake, no matter where you look, you're gonna see this nigga. Created star. That's how you create a star. you put them next to somebody who really is important. Look at what they did with Usher. Going back to I was talking about Usher earlier. When they really wanted to send Usher and Justin Timberlake, they had a white one and a black one. When they wanted to send Usher and Justin Timberlake into orbit, they did that Michael Jackson special in 2001. That was right before 9/11, when the Jacksons reunited for the first time on stage together in 20 years. And they had Luther Vandross come out, and they had Usher singing with Luther Vandross. They had Justin Timberlake and Usher dancing with Michael Jackson. Usher had been around since like 94. Usher didn't never naturally break through. Matter of fact, if we gonna be real, chat room, tell me if I'm wrong. Let's go back to 2000. Usher had been around since 94. He came in as a rapper. Drew Hill been around since what, 96? Cisco was bigger than Usher in 2000. The Thong Song. The Thong Song was the hottest shit in America. Cisco. Am I wrong? Chat room. Tell me if I'm wrong, chat. Those of you who were around then. Cisco was nothing bigger than a Thong Song that year. How am I wrong, Rob Trimble? Nice and Slow is not a bigger song than the Thong Song. The Thong Song was on all the goddamn award shows. The Thong Song was being debated on talk shows. Ooh, this new song called the Thong Song. Is it too? They was talking about the Thong Song on Good Morning America. The fuck is you talking about? Yeah, Confessions came out, I think when did Confessions come out? 2001, 2002? Yeah, like, Usher didn't win his generation. His generation got X'd out. And he came off of Drew Hill. Drew Hill was hot. So it's not like Cisco had the perfect launching point. Cisco had the same launching point a lot of the great stars of the past had. Lead singer of a successful group, breaks away from group, has mega hit. Everything was set up for Cisco. But he ain't the one they chose. So them gay rumors came out. Fact is, 70% of these niggas is gay when you're dealing with the pop guys. And that's just my opinion. I don't know. But I've been around enough to feel it. They say gay or bi, but I'm a real nigga. Bi and gay are the same thing for me. If you took a dick one time 40 years ago, you still gay, in my opinion. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's just is what it is. I don't judge you any differently. That's why I'm saying I don't care if the artist is gay or not. But in 2000s, back in the year 2000, 2001, rumor have it you gay, you're done. It wasn't no. That killed Tevin Campbell's career too. Usher and Tevin Campbell were out at the same time. Tevin Campbell came out before Usher. But Usher was out when I'm Ready dropped. Y'all remember by Tevin Campbell, that album? Nigga, they want to rewrite history now. Tevin Campbell in 95, 96 was bigger than most rappers. Nigga, when that motherfucker came out, that Girl Don't Leave Me, and he came out that. Um, Can't we talk for a minute? Man, Tevin Campbell was bigger than most rappers. Nigga, chat room. We gotta remember history. Because the way they're telling the history now, they're making it seem like rap was the end all be all back then, and then Tupac and Biggie were out. Like, no. It was not the end all be all back then. Most rappers were not fucking with Tevin Campbell. But the truth is, mostly all these niggas is gay. Hold on. There we go. Rocky knocked out. I was coming back here and see if Rocky still with the kid, but that nigga knocked out. But going back, let's go back and pay attention to that era. Just pay attention to that era. We good? Are we good? Am I glitchy? We good? Yeah, Brandy. Yeah, Brandy was bigger than most of all the rappers. And before Brandy, Chinese. TLC, Left Eye was more famous than most rappers because the bigger song in 1995. The biggest song in 1995 for the hip hop generation was Waterfalls, TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool album. Waterfalls was the biggest video. Waterfalls was out doing everything in hip hop. Chat room, am I wrong? TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool. When that video Waterfalls dropped, and mind you, this is during the golden age of hip hop. Yeah, Red Light Special, yeah. This was during the golden age of hip hop. It's almost like they done wrote that whole era off. Yeah, Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson was. Remember, Janet Jackson is who validated Tupac in Poetic Justice. It was two actors. I mean, it was two artists that was acting, but to be clear, Janet Jackson was the attraction to Poetic Justice. She was the star. You dig? So when it comes to going back to Usher and Beyonce, let's throw Beyonce in this mix too. Because Beyonce had the traditional launching pad, the group. Destiny's Child comes in TLC, SWV, Escape, Total, they're established. Destiny's Child comes in as a younger girl group, and the writings on the wall was huge. That album was huge from Destiny's Child, the writings on the wall. And but still in R&B, remember Genuine? Genuine and Usher were head and head. They were head to head. Um, what's his name? Montel Jordan. You had Montel Jordan. Usher didn't clearly get paid. Didn't beat out none of these guys. You had remember Carl Thomas in 2000. Carl Thomas. Usher's in the mix with all of these guys. Joe, Joe Levert. He's in the mix with these guys. He's no clear winner at this point. Keith Washington was early 90s. He was early 90s. I'm talking about late 90s, 98 to 2001. I'm talking about that era. Right there at the end of the 90s. You still have, and I'm missing some people, D'Angelo, Maxwell. You know, yeah, Donnell Jones. That's what I'm missing. K Swagger. That's who I was forgetting. Donnell Jones. This is where I want to be. When Donnell Jones came in with that, he was like, okay, yeah, this nigga cold. Case, Casey and JoJo, Babyface, right? You got Music Soul Child coming up. You got, I'm gonna do it one more time. When Donald Jones did that, when you love someone, you don't treat them bad. I just hated how that song was mixed. I think whoever produced that song, When You Love Someone, I thought the producer, whoever engineered like the transitions, you can hear where that's what, and it made me almost not like Donald Jones for a while. You could tell they just didn't punch it in right. But when you love someone, you just don't treat them bad. Oh, how just having the technical ear that I have, I can tell all of those lines were punched in post production. Whoever did post production should never have mixed a song again ever. It's some. But what happened in 2001? I know I've been talking for 20 minutes on this point. Y'all know I can go for a long time. I appreciate everybody with the mental enzymes to stick with me. What happened in 2001? They put Usher and Justin Timberlake next to Michael Jackson. By 2002, ain't no more Tevin Campbell. Ain't no more Carl Thomas. We waiting for Carl Thomas's next project. Puffy fucked that off. 2003, no, you just, no, Gerald Levert died. 2006. No more Keith Sweat. Because Keith Sweat was still hot all the way through the 90s. You know, Donnell Jones was like, okay, we're in the next Donald Jones project. Chat room, am I wrong? We're gonna talk about this on class number 8 on Sunday, on Patreon, Music University. Join the Music University. We're gonna talk about this, a little bit of this. And look, I just gave y'all the individual singers. What about the groups? early '90s, you had, your New Edition was still coming out stuff in the '90s. You had BBD. You had Lucy Pearl in the late '90s. You had, um, Jagged Edge. You had Immature. You know, I didn't like Jagged Edge nor Immature. You had Next. You had Drew Hill. Think of Silk, H Town, Tony, Blackstreet, Mint Condition, SWV, TLC, Escape Total. You had Zane. And salute to Jean from Zane. I met her over Grammy weekend. She is such a beautiful soul. Could sing her ass off. Jean Baylor from Zane. I saw her, I met her at Blue Note. Saw her again the next night at Sunrose. And we talked, man, in the Beta Project, man. But you had her, you had so much musical diversity on the R&B side. And then what ended up happening? You got left with Usher and Beyonce. Look at and it's the same story for Beyonce, but Beyonce didn't get put next to Michael, but she did a lot of Michael imitations, just like Usher. But then, so it's like Usher beat out all those people, and those people just didn't exist anymore. And Justin Timberlake, all after they put him next to Michael Jackson. Beyonce went into the movies. She did that movie. She did Goldmember, Austin Powers. They tried to cross Beyonce into the movies. And look at the women, you know, that were around in 2001, 2002, that were no longer around in 2008. Yeah, Brownstone, Groove Theory, Monifa, yeah. Ain't nobody denying Beyonce's talent. Ain't nobody denying Usher's talent. I always said they're more talented than anybody else from other races. They're more talented than me or anybody I know. But if you put them in a room of, if you put Beyonce in a room of 10 great women singers, she's probably gonna be number 8 or 9. You put, and the same with Usher. And it's obvious. That's not hating. That's saying, okay, yeah, put Beyonce. Let's go with the black women. Put Beyonce in a room with Stephanie Mills, Whitney Houston, Vesta, Shaka Khan, Evan Champagne King. I'm high right now, so I'm not remembering some obvious. Shirley Murdoch, she's coming in last. Deborah Cox, Shantae Moore. That's not hate. Beyonce still out singing everybody else. Yeah, A. Marie, look what happened to her. Same with same with Usher. Put Usher in the room with Tevin Campbell, Joe Levert, Joe, Kim. Like I said, I'm high, so I'm missing a lot of names. He's not gonna be nowhere near. He's not gonna be near the top. But it's not about going back to how we started tonight about the monkeys and the mamas and the papas and the doors and the children of the agencies. It's not about your talent. It's about who they pick and choose to put out front. And sometimes You have somebody with natural star ability like Michael Jackson, who was also pushed out front. But look what happened. He got too goddamn big. And they tried to dim his light. They just couldn't. But that was before, that was the artist that came out before the 70s. It all changed really. If you go back to the 90s, you know, Chris Brown was a natural star. And they gave Chris Brown some shine. And when they did give him some shine, he filled them shoes well. He was a star. But then the situation with Rihanna happened. A lot of the people on the internet say that Jay-Z and Roc Nation, they're behind a lot of this suppressing Chris Brown. I don't know, because I kind of tend to stay away from the scandals and more so like to stay in the lanes of the power dynamics and what goes on and shit like that. But that's what people say. Whatever it is, there's somebody that has a vendetta against Chris Brown. But no matter how much they try to ignore Chris Brown, his light still shines. That's coming from somebody like me. I feel the exact same about Usher as I do about Chris Brown. I don't like neither one of their music. But I can be objective. The way I'm talking about Chris Brown, a simple-minded nigga might be thinking, you just like Chris Brown more than you like Usher. Fact is, I have the same feeling towards Chris Brown and Usher. I've been in a room with both guys. And it's like, cool, they over there and I'm over here. But you can feel Chris Brown. When you're in a room with Chris Brown, you can feel his star power. And it could be maybe because Chris Brown's taller. But you can really feel Chris Brown's star power. Usher doesn't have the same energy. But he is a star. Usher still is a star. Usher has star quality. He does. I don't appreciate the way he took the roller skating thing from Chris Brown, though. I think that Usher does have star quality. He definitely has star quality. He does. I got to give him that credit. Beyonce is most definitely a star. Beyonce is a star. She's a star who also got selected. That's why Beyonce's stardom is so big. Because Beyonce is 100% a star. She has all the star qualities. And she got the light. She's that rare intersection of a star quality artist that got the light. Rihanna's a star. She has most definite star energy. The difference is this. See, with Rihanna, if this was the 80s, they just would have made Rihanna a model. They wouldn't have put that girl out there to sing. I remember Vanessa Williams sang, but Vanessa Williams could actually sing. Vanessa Williams was a model, but Vanessa Williams could actually sing. And Vanessa Williams sounded damn good in a decade where Natalie Cole was out there doing music and everybody. We be forgetting about how great Natalie Cole is. Rihanna ain't got no musical talent, but Rihanna's a star. So they did what they did with Jim Morrison and the '60s rock scene. They just made her into music. But Rihanna's a star. But I think that Rihanna would have been just as big of a star had she been a model. If this was the '80s, they just would have made Rihanna a model and an actress and made her be a star that way. They would have made Rihanna into a star even then. But she would have had to been a star model or a star actress or something like that. She couldn't. There would have been no space for Rihanna musically in the '80s because you had to actually be good and be black. But Rihanna's a star, terrible musician, but surrounded by geniuses. And the geniuses that are around you can make you a star. Phil Spector was a genius. I didn't like nothing about him. I heard he was a racist and heard he was definitely a creep. Phil Spector's like a confirmed creep. Motherfucker killed some goddamn body. But he was a creep. But he was a damn good music producer. And his band, the Wall of Sound, they were amazing. Whitney was a definite star that also got the light. Whitney Houston was the most definite star who got the light. She had that quality. There's some people who just had that quality, you know? Go watch this documentary called, I think it's called 20 Feet from Stardom. It's either 10 feet from stardom or 20 feet from stardom. It's about background singers. There were a lot of background singers that they tried to make stars. They just couldn't. You got to have an ego to be a star. You got to have, it's a certain, and I can look it up in the cards, like certain cards. A 10 of diamonds, that's a star. If your card is a 10 of diamonds and you want to be famous, you'll be famous. Five of hearts, Jack of hearts. Drake is a Jack of hearts. You know, these are star cards. Do I think Jack Wright had been a star? Jack Wright had most definitely had a star, has a star's voice. But I don't know if Jack Wright had the patience to be a star or the ego to be a star. Jaguar Wright's a cool. Let me just say this: Jaguar Wright's a cool motherfucker. Y'all can say what y'all want to say, but I mean, I love Jag. Jag is cool as hell. I gotta say that. I've had some great conversations with Jaguar about music. Jaguar Wright is a music nerd, right? She's amazing. She's somebody who most definitely should have had. She should still be a really big talent today. But I would liken Jaguar Wright has a star's talent. I don't know if she has a star's ego. You know what I mean? I don't think she has a star's ego. She's very humble with her gift. Like, but Jaguar, if the music industry was fair, look, you can be a lead singer and not be the big star. That's what, matter of fact, that's where oftentimes the best music comes from. A lot of my favorite music wasn't the biggest stars. You know, Stephanie Smith wasn't the. I mean, Stephanie Mills, although she had her run, she was no. She was not a big star. But she's one of the man. Stephanie Mills. Minnie Riperton wasn't a huge star, from what I know. Greatest voice ever. One of the greatest voices ever. Anita Baker, yeah. But most of these people, like going back to Beyonce, Beyonce has definite star energy. She was born to be a star, and she got the light. But she also has, Beyonce is built for today's style star. The stars of the past, had opinions on things. Beyonce ain't got an opinion on shit. So that helps in today's style of celebrity. Today's style celebrity can't have an opinion on shit. It just lately, since Obama, they kind of have her go out there and say something for the Democrats. But it's nothing. She's not going to say anything. Beyonce's not going to say anything that's going to ruffle any feathers. Just an approved script. I don't think Beyonce gives a fuck about the Democrats. I really don't. Hell, as rich as she is, she'd probably vote Republican. And I wouldn't be mad at her if she did. Beyonce just does whatever it takes to maintain her stardom. That's how y'all got to look at Beyonce politically. In America, if you want to be a big star and you black, you got to be low-key aligned with the Democrats. They control TV. A lot of that's starting to change. Yeah, Solange is really the soulful one of the family. But Beyonce's the star. I think Beyonce and Solange are in their rightful place. Solange has done carved out for her own lane, and she makes her music. I went to see Solange at the Hollywood Bowl. She sold that motherfucker out, 18,000 seats. Solange ain't Solange ain't missing out on nothing. Solange don't have the star's energy. She's an artist. And oftentimes the artists aren't stars. The best artists aren't stars most of the time. Every now and again you get a Prince. Every now and again you get a Stevie Wonder. Every now and again you get a Michael Jackson. Every now and again you get a Teddy Pendergrass. You know. But those are the exceptions. Every now and again you get a Whitney Houston. Those are the rare exceptions. Usually the best artists aren't going to be stars. Oh yeah, Kendrick's a star. And the way he commands the stage, the attention. See, Kendrick doesn't look at another gun. Kendrick's another one that shines light. Kendrick doesn't seek light. He's another natural born star who got the light. But Kendrick don't seek the light. Kendrick don't be tweeting. You don't see Kendrick doing a whole bunch of Instagram videos and stories, and out of all the shit that was said about Kendrick since the battle, Kendrick never responded. Kendrick is a recluse. But what he says through his music is so profound it pushed him out there, and he delivers. You see the way he performs on stage. Kendrick captures people. The reason why Kendrick Lamar captures people's imagination. That's what Kendrick does best. Kendrick captures people's imagination. Yeah, but celebrities, most of them have a bright light being shined on them. You got to decipher which one is which. But you got to know this: if in America they have these people always in your face, Watch out. Watch out. Kendrick can be a star and be quiet. Drake gotta stay in beefs and next to people. The real versus the fake. I'm about to get up out of here, y'all. Patreon. Go check out my broadcast from earlier on in the member section. Go catch up my broadcast earlier. I forgot what I talked about. I gave a study guide. Goddamn chat room. I'm tired as hell. What was my subject about pay any Patreon subscribers? I done made a study guide for you niggas, and I can't even remember the name of the damn class. But check that over on Patreon, all levels. All right, I'm out.